And good morning, Master Class, and it is May 17th already. The year is just flying by, and it's a Monday, so we're going to study some aspect of the Bible or Bible knowledge this morning. So I've decided to start doing a few Psalms. This is something I haven't done a lot of through the years, and I like the Psalms. So I thought just over the next few weeks we'd pick out a few individual ones that maybe not everybody goes through all the time and look at them. We know about half of the Psalms were written by David, or at least are attributed to David. As you know, back then it was very common to attribute something to famous people, and so we're not really sure what it actually is and what was attributed to. But about half of the Psalms are attributed to him. The other half are either not attributed or they will be attributed to different people, and we'll talk about some of them as we go along. So the Psalms were often used for meditation. They were used for music in the temple. They were used in lots of different ways. One of the things about the Psalms that would have been important was in the original Hebrew, many of them would have either rhymed or they would have been acrostics. So it was very common for the Hebrews to have acrostics. So one verse would start with one letter of the alphabet, and the next one would start with the next letter of the alphabet. So we can't pick that up in English nearly as well as you could pick it up if we were able to do this in Hebrew. But we will just be content with the English version. And so let's go ahead and jump into Psalm 1 today, and then we'll do Psalm 4. We'll try to do 2 or 3 Psalms a day. So we'll jump into Psalm 1, and as you can see, Psalm 1 is not attributed to anybody. But in the NIV, at least, it breaks book 1 into such Psalms 1 through 41. There is no original break, obviously, in the Psalms. The Psalms were just put together of the different things that the Hebrews liked. So there is no really importance to book 1 in the original Hebrew. So starting in Psalm 1, blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and he meditates on his law day and night. So this psalm is breaking the world into 2 types of people, and often we will see this. One is the people who are righteous, and that the righteous person then is the one who would walk in the ways of the Lord, whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on the law day and night. And when he's talking about the law here, he would be primarily talking about the book of Deuteronomy, but also Exodus and Leviticus. So those would be the things that he's talking about. So entire law at this point, when the psalm was written, would have been, again, primarily thinking about it in terms of the laws that were given to the Israelites on Mount Sinai. Then you have the wicked people, and they didn't define what the wicked are, but the groups the wicked with the sinners and the mockers. So you have a group that's the righteous and the group that's not the righteous. And we shouldn't take for granted that wicked here means that they're out doing specifically wicked things. The wicked people here are everybody who's not righteous. So you're not allowed to be neutral. You're either on the side of the righteous or you're on the side of the wicked. And that's the way most of the Bible sets out. Again, the righteous one is the one who delights in the law of the Lord and who meditates on the law day and night. So those people, the good news for those people is they're like a person planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and most importantly, whatever they do prospers. And I love that idea. If I want my things to prosper, if I want to prosper as a person, then the things that I want to do is have delight in the Lord and what he says. And I want to meditate it day and night. That's what I want my thoughts to be on, for those things. You can imagine that David's writing this, let's say, maybe when he's running from Saul, we don't really know. But in any event, David is probably writing this at a place where he's either looking and seeing water, or he's not seeing water and he wishes he was. We will get to some Psalms later, probably, where David is at En Gedi. Now, has anybody here been to En Gedi in Israel? Anybody remember being in En Gedi in Israel? Engedi. So En Gedi, there specifically, there we will read some Psalms that are written at En Gedi. It's a stream that is on the west side of the Dead Sea, and it was very famous. One of the places that Saul chased David was to En Gedi. And it's a beautiful stream that has a gorgeous waterfall. I wish I have a picture with Mitch under that waterfall. And it's just a wonderful place to sit and meditate. So I can imagine that if David wrote this at En Gedi, or he'd been to En Gedi recently, that's what he would have been thinking about, that tree planted by the stream of water. Just terribly, or really, really refreshing in the desert. But not the wicked. They're like chaff that the wind blows away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. So the people who are not righteous blow away like chaff in the wind. In our world, we don't think about that, because many of us on this phone, not all of us, have probably never harvested wheat and done it like they did, but they would have ground the wheat so that the seeds would have separated from the chaff. They would have had the women primarily and the kids throw it up in the wind, and the seeds were heavier, so the seeds would drop straight down and the chaff would be blown away in the wind. So it was worthless, wasn't good for anything, wasn't even good for food for the animals. It would just blow away. And so he's making that judgment here. And then in verse 6 in the psalm, for the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. You have two types of people and two endings. The righteous are watched over by the Lord on their path, but the wicked are on the way to destruction. Don't want to be wicked. That's never a good thing in the Bible. So always good to be righteous, never good to be wicked. So I will pause there, see anybody have any insights they want to share about Psalm 1. Have you ever memorized any of the verses there, or thought about it? So Rod, you punched the button first.
Oh, I was just, this morning I was reading about the 5 divisions they call books here. And the author of this little blurb was saying that that book 1 kind of had a theme running through it, and that is that basically what it says is in verse 6 there, for the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, and he walks with us through all of these things. And I think that especially comes out in some of the Psalms of David, and you can just hear kind of the warrior culture coming out and expressing this idea of the Lord walking beside us.
I like that. Anybody else want to say anything except Claudia? She's not allowed to talk today.
I'll just say on the NLT, translation. On that very first verse, it just says the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked.
Okay, we read that whole, start at the first of that and read it all. Please.
Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. You know, when I read that, join in with mockers, how easy that is sometimes when we're not even realizing that's what we're doing. We see or hear or something someone said, or maybe the way they look, and look, that is so funny. And that's kind of what I thought of when I read that.
It is easy to do that. You don't want to hang around those people. It's like your mama used to tell you, don't hang around bad people. Hang around good people. Except for Lynn. Lynn's mama never said that. Her daddy would just beat her if she did. Right, Lynn? Yeah. All right. I love Psalm 1, and I think it sets it up. To me, that's a nice psalm. It's kind of short, to the point, it's uplifting. So you can put that on your list of uplifting psalms, which not all of them are that uplifting, at least, and pleasant. So now let's go to Psalm 4. And I'm just picking out ones for sometimes no special reason as we're going along. But if you see one along the way you want to do, and I skipped it, we'll do it. This particular one, it looks like it was written by David for stringed instruments, which is interesting. I wonder how they would have done melodies, because there was no such thing as written music back then. So it sounds like David would have had to taught the melodies and how to play them on the instruments to the singers, as well as giving them the word. How cool would that have been to have David for your piano teacher instead of the one that you had when you grew up? Mine was Mrs. Wellhoy, and she was not my most favorite person in the whole world. So let's start with this. So this is Psalm 4, verse 1. Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me and hear my prayer. So certainly this is at some point in David's life when he was under some kind of special distress. And he just points that out to start with. How long will you people turn my glory into shame? How long will you love delusions and seek false gods? Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call him. So verse 2 looks like he's changed the nature of who he's talking to. Verse 1, he's talking to God. Verse 2 looks like he's talking to the people who are tormenting him. Or at least that's the way. And he continues talking to them, I think, and I think it's also interesting. David calls himself a faithful servant. So this must have been in a time period when David was acting properly as a faithful servant. Verse 4, tremble and do not sin when you're on your beds. Search your hearts and be silent. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, now he's switching back to talking to the Lord in verse 6. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. So that's what many are. Many people are asking. So who David is assuming here that the Lord, I think, is going to, he's the only one that can bring them prosperity. So it must have been in a time when the people were not having prosperity. And he's asking for that. Fill my heart with joy when there's grain and new wine about. In peace I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Isn't it interesting how people through time, one of the things everybody seems to want is peace and sleep. Have you ever noticed that? That's a common theme when people under stress, that's what they want. I have a very, very close friend who's trying to sell his business right now. And he actually had to go to a doctor this week because he was under so much stress, he wasn't sleeping. And the doctor basically said, "You're killing yourself. You've got to stop doing what you're doing," and gave him things to do, including exercise and meditation and some medicine to get some sleep. The good news is my friend actually slept 8 hours last night for the first time in years. So that was good news. But isn't it funny how we will let that happen to ourselves? And I don't know about you guys, but I think about the silliest things when I wake up at 3 in the morning. It's just awful. And it is interesting that what brings me peace, and I think the lots of us, that you can often just open your Bible to the Psalms, or do what Lynn does. She goes to Leviticus. You can do that and read for a while, and your heart will, get a lot more peaceful, and your thoughts will get back on where they're supposed to go. And that's the way we're supposed to be all day long. Trust in the Lord. So I see some of you shaking your heads like you've experienced some sleepless hours along the way. And it is, I do like the fact that in verse 8, he points out, "For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." There's no other way. You put locks on your house, you can put all sorts of Ring doorbells, you can do anything you want, but you only dwell in real safety when you got the Lord. So I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has any comments they want to chime in with. All right. Claudia, tell me how many more days it is before you come to Tulsa. Well, you'll have to hold up your fingers. One more day. Hooray. All right. So we look forward to having you here.
Thank you.
And, we will hopefully see you at church next Sunday. Look forward to it. All right. So I'm gonna stop it there. You guys that are going to Sam's, you older people today, go to Sam's and have lunch. Judy's laughing. Judy, did you know I still refuse to take senior discounts? I still pretend like I don't deserve it. So I love you
I
guys.
do too, but Rod takes them.
I asked for them.
It's the wise thing to do. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that vanity is expensive. So, all right, love you guys.
Love
See y'all
you.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Here's the chat.